Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 26 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have a few sections that we'll get into, but it might not be the ones you're used to hearing. Let's go to our content for the week. Diving into college hoops for a second, there was a major move this past week. University of Kentucky head coach John Calipari is taking the job over at the University of Arkansas. Chicago Bulls head coach Billy Donovan, when asked if he'd been contacted by the Wildcats, said he's committed to the Bulls. Donovan was an assistant coach at Kentucky over 30 years ago. The search for a new head coach ended with BYU head coach Mark Pope receiving the job. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said this week that Jontay Porter of the Toronto Raptors might be facing a ban from the NBA after reports surfaced of Porter betting on NBA games. We discussed 2 episodes ago that there was a suspicious amount of betting on the under for games where Porter only played a few minutes. Silver called Porter's accusations a, quote, cardinal sin and said, quote, the ultimate extreme option I have is to ban him from the game. Silver believes that, quote, there's nothing more serious around this league when it comes to gambling than betting on our games. Wow. Finally, Boston Celtics guard Jrue Holiday received a 4-year, $135 million extension on Wednesday. The soon-to-be 34-year-old has averaged 12.5 points, 5.4 rebounds, and almost 5 assists in his first season in Beantown. With Holiday in the lineup this season, Boston is sporting a top 5 defense in points allowed. We've reached that time of the NBA season. With the play-in tournament about to begin, 20 teams are left standing. 10 have flipped the page to the off-season. And after the play-in, 16 teams will battle it out for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. This is a special edition of Diehlman at Halftime, and I will reveal my entire playoff bracket, including the play-in tournament. This episode is entitled Legacies. So, who's looking scary enough for a title run? Let's go to our play-in tournament predictions. For those of you that don't know how the play-in tournament works, here's a brief explanation. The 7 through 10 seeds in each conference technically have not made the playoffs yet. Those 4 teams are battling it out for the 7th and 8th seed in their conference, so 2 will make it and 2 will not. The 7-8 game is hosted by the 7 seed. The winner automatically gets the 7 seed. The loser has to play another game in order to grab the 8th seed. The 9-10 game is hosted by the 9th seed. The winner faces the loser of the 7-8 game. The loser of the 9-10 game is out. They are done for the year. So the game between the 7-8 loser and the 9-10 winner, whoever wins that game gets the 8th seed, and that's the end of the play-in tournament. So that's how the play-in tournament works. It seems complicated, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So here we go with our play-in tournament predictions, and please note, whether it's the play-in tournament or the bracket, we will start with the Eastern Conference. So the Sixers and Heat are the 7-8 matchup in the Eastern Conference, with the game being in Philadelphia. Ever since the Sixers chose to keep Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler in 2019, this has been an interesting matchup. Miami went on a Cinderella run last year to the NBA Finals after almost losing in the play-in tournament. Philadelphia should advance at home. My verdict, the Sixers get the 7th seed, and they will face the Knicks in the first round. Then we have the 9-10 game, the Bulls versus the Hawks. Man, Atlanta and Chicago love the play-in tournament. 3 years in a row for the Hawks and 2 for the Bulls. These two are a classic example of young, talented team that severely underachieves. Chicago needs to blow it up and blow it up now. My verdict, the Bulls get eliminated. And then in our loser of the 7-8 game and winner of the 9-10 game, we would have the Heat versus the Hawks. As mentioned in the Sixers-Heat matchup, Miami turned into the 96 Bulls in last year's miracle run. Although Atlanta has a decent roster, there is no way on the face of the earth that the Heat are losing to the Hawks at home. Atlanta will be sent packing. My verdict, the Heat get the 8th seed and will face the Boston Celtics in the first round. Let's go over to our Western Conference play-in tournament predictions. The 7-8 game in the West is the New Orleans Pelicans hosting the Los Angeles Lakers. When Zion Williamson is at his best, the Pelicans are a scary team to deal with. The same can be said about LeBron James and Anthony Davis for the Lakers. When it's all said and done, the team with more experience will come out on top for a rematch with Denver. My verdict, the Lakers get the 7th seed and face the Denver Nuggets in the first round. Then we have the 9-10 game, which is the Sacramento Kings against the Golden State Warriors. This was a first-round matchup in last year's playoffs. Golden State won the California Bowl in 7 games as a road team. In a game where the loser goes home, it's hard to bet against Stephen Curry. However, it's never too late to start something new. My verdict, the Warriors get eliminated. Finally, in our loser of 7-8 game versus 9-10 winner, we have the Pelicans versus the Kings. The Western Conference is a tough one to compete in, which means one of these two will start their offseason this week. New Orleans got Brandon Ingram back on Sunday after returning from a knee contusion. Ingram back in the fold should provide enough momentum to propel the Big Easy into the postseason. My verdict, the Pelicans get the 8th seed and will face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. That is the end of our play-in tournament predictions. So with that being said, let's go to the first round. Let's go over to our first round predictions. For each matchup, I will predict a series winner and the number of games the series will go to. So starting in the Eastern Conference, we have the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat. Miami almost blew a 3-0 lead against Boston in last year's postseason. This year, Boston has been pummeling any team who stands in their way. The Heat will claim a battle as the Celtics win the war. My verdict, Celtics in 5. Then we go to the New York Knicks versus the Philadelphia 76ers. New York will be without Julius Randle for this postseason, and Philadelphia just got Joel Embiid back from his injury absence. Embiid versus Jalen Brunson will be a treat in the first round. But I might be in the minority when I say this could be an upset. My verdict, Sixers in 6. Next, we go to the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Indiana Pacers. Holy cow, this could get ugly. Milwaukee's Malik Beasley predicted earlier this season that I know we're going to play them in the playoffs, and boy, it's not going to be pretty for them. Remember, Pacers-Bucks was the infamous game where Giannis Antetokounmpo was irate after his game ball was stolen. If you remember, that was the game where Giannis scored like 64 points or something. Then the game ball was taken by one of the Pacers staff members and Giannis ran after somebody. It was ugly. Indiana beat Milwaukee 4 times in the regular season. I smell another upset. My verdict, Pacers in 6. Finally, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Orlando Magic. Orlando comes into this postseason with one of the best rosters they've had in years. Cleveland is looking to bounce back from their first-round exit in 2023. Mickey Mouse won't like this prediction, but the Magic is running out for Orlando in round 1. My verdict, Cavaliers in 5. Let's go over to our Western Conference first round predictions, starting with the Oklahoma City Thunder against the New Orleans Pelicans. MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has breathed life into Oklahoma City after a few years of tanking. The core the Thunder have, along with sensational rookie Chet Holmgren, is absolutely ridiculous. New Orleans might want to start the scouting reports for the Saints because the Pelicans are going home. My verdict, Thunder in 6. Next, we have the Denver Nuggets against the Los Angeles Lakers. These two faced off in the Western Conference Finals last season, and the eventual champion Nuggets took out the broomsticks for the sweep. Nikola Jokic has been cooking as usual, and I have a feeling this could end up like that other series. Even though the Nuggets could win, the media will talk about how this affects LeBron's legacy. My verdict, Nuggets in 5. Next, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves hosting the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix just finished their first full season with Kevin Durant. Karl Anthony Towns just returned to Minnesota's lineup following a meniscus tear. This should be a high-flying offensive showcase. That will involve the Suns being left with more questions than answers. My verdict, Timberwolves in 6. Finally, we have the Los Angeles Clippers against the Dallas Mavericks. This is the third season in the last 5 that will see Clippers-Mavericks in the first round. Luka Doncic goes nuclear when the playoffs arrive. His 32.5 points per game is the second most points per game in NBA playoff history behind Michael Jordan. Despite high hopes for LA, Dallas gets their revenge. My verdict, Mavericks in 6. That is the end of the first round. Let's head over to the conference semifinals. Let's do our conference semifinals bracket predictions. Starting with the Eastern Conference, we have the Boston Celtics against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Do I even have to say it? I can see Cleveland stealing a game at home, but they are outmatched against Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis. This will wrap up quickly. My verdict, Celtics in 5, and that's being generous. Then we have the Indiana Pacers against the Philadelphia 76ers. Indiana acquired Pascal Siakam from Toronto earlier this season to give Tyrese Halliburton a weapon and to make them a stronger contender. Philadelphia is looking to shake off the second-round demons for the first time in the Joel Embiid era. The Sixers would be a higher seed in this bracket had Embiid not been injured. Indiana should make things interesting before they get eliminated. My verdict, Sixers in 6. Let's head over to our Western Conference semifinals predictions, starting with the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Dallas Mavericks. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren versus Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving will make for some darn good television. There is a good mix of experience and inexperience in this matchup. Who else remembers the game in December where Dallas went on a 30-0 run at home against Oklahoma City and the Thunder still won? This series will not be decided in fewer than 6 games. My verdict, Thunder in 7. Then we have the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Nuggets took out the Timberwolves in a gentleman's sweep 5 games in last year's first round. I'm not guaranteeing that Denver will repeat as champions, but they are too good to lose this early. This time, Minnesota will get bounced on their home court instead of in Denver. My verdict, Nuggets in 6. That is the end of our conference semifinals predictions. Now let's head over to our conference finals. We have now reached the conference finals predictions for the episode. So the two left standing in the Eastern Conference, we have the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. In typical Sixers fashion, they blew a 3-2 series lead against their rival last season in the second round. Boston got stronger this season after acquiring Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Philadelphia's chance to beat Boston was last year. It ain't happening this time. My verdict, Celtics in 6. Now for the Western Conference Finals prediction. The last two standing in my bracket are the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City, Denver, and Minnesota all had a chance at the number 1 seed and home court advantage in the final days of the regular season. For a team as young and inexperienced as the Thunder are, home court is always important. However, Denver is going to end Oklahoma City's feel-good story and advance to another finals. My verdict, Nuggets in 5. That is the end of our conference finals predictions, and now let's go to the NBA finals. We have reached the NBA finals portion of my bracket. The final two teams standing, the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. Home court advantage in the NBA Finals is decided by whoever has the better regular season record. And since the Boston Celtics have the best record in the NBA, they clinched home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs. What other way can you end the NBA season than with a heavyweight fight? The Celtics fell to the Warriors in the 2022 Finals, a matchup they had a chance to win. Repeating as champions is incredibly difficult to accomplish, and this is true for Denver as well. Boston has just enough, in my opinion, to raise banner number 18 and to break the championship tie with the Los Angeles Lakers. My verdict, Celtics in 7. Let the craziness begin. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter is @LarryDiehlman18 and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on SoundCloud. So this week's episode was a special edition of Diehlman at Halftime, and next week's episode will also be a special edition. Next week, we will review my power rankings predictions from the very first episode to see how good or bad I did. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at Halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.